It may only be year 2 for Deion Sanders in Colorado, but there is a lot of pressure on him to succeed in 2024.
You are Locked On Buffs, your daily podcast on the Colorado Buffaloes. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to the Locked On Buffs. I am your host, Kevin Boulder. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. Right now, new customers join today, and you'll get $200 in bonus bets if your first bet of $5 or more wins. Visit FanDuel.com/LockedOn to get started. We are also brought to you by the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day for free and available wherever you may get your podcast. Today's episode, we're talking about bowl or bust for Colorado. I said there's a lot of pressure on them, and I think there is. Even though Colorado won 4 games last season, and I think a lot of people kind of got caught up in the hype and were like, they said they were going to do this, this, and that, the other. We all knew that their peak or their ceiling was about 5 to 6 wins. I projected them to win 6 games. They came up 2 games short. I think had the season finished a little stronger, maybe, but obviously they didn't get there. So now heading into year 2, there's 3 main reasons that it's bowl or bust for the Buffs. Starting with the rebuilt lines. They had to redo the whole offensive line. Coach Prime talked about it, and a lot of people got upset about it. But he knew, and everyone else knew, I think they just didn't like that he brought it up and was willing to say he was going to replace them, that he needed a new offensive line. And boy, did he get a new offensive line. He got a 5-star freshman, Jordan Seaton, who will probably start right away. If he doesn't, he'll be a starter by the end of the year. I would almost bet a kidney on it. Then he also goes out into the portal and gets 5 linemen to join the crew. And then you have guys like Tyler Brown, who wasn't able to play last season because of NCAA, who ended up ruling in favor of letting guys play again after transferring multiple times. So had Tyler Brown transferred a year later, he would have been fine. Either way, that's neither here nor there. They have Tyler Brown. They have Savion Washington. And so they have guys returning. And so they now have basically a line of 7 guys, 8 guys, if you will, that could start and probably be better than what they had. A couple of these guys were Power 5 starters. A couple of them were Power 5 contributors. And the other ones that weren't were proven at the FBS level. And that's what they really didn't have last season. And it was evident. It was evident every time Shedeur Sanders dropped back that he was running for his life. Shedeur had little to no time every time he threw the ball, even when they would hand it off on like an RPO or even just a normal handoff. Shedeur and the running back, I guess if it was a handoff, were feeling the pressure. So Coach Prime comes in, brings a new offensive line. And I think that was the biggest criticism. I think this line, even if they're average, this Colorado team should win a bowl game. I think being bowl game or bust isn't too much of an ask. I think Coach Prime has shown each year he's coached that he improves the next year. He went 4-3 his first season at Jackson State, 11-2 the next year, 12-1 the following year, and then he came to Colorado. So they're 4-8. He has shown that he improves each and every year. And he saw what the biggest guess or the biggest hole was on the roster. And it was the offensive line. It was also the defense line. And while I don't know if it's going to be super dominant, I do think they have more bodies. I think they have more depth. And I think they have a couple more pass rushers that will really help them out. Most notably, they landed a fella by the name of BJ Green, who transferred in from Arizona State, who I said, if they get him, they are automatically one of the contenders in the Big 12. They really are. He is an elite pass rusher. You pair him with Samuel O from Pitt, who had 5 sacks as well. And this Colorado defense line just got a whole lot more intimidating. And I think it could be the difference between them kind of being a middle of the pack team to kind of being in the mix, at least for the Big 12. So on top of rebuilding the line, it's an easier conference. We talked a lot about conference expansion when it was happening, conference realignment, and all that jazz. The Big 12 is just simply not as good as the Pac-12 was this past year and would have continued to be had it stayed together. The Pac-12 had teams like Oregon, USC, who is pretty solid, even though they had a down year. They had Oregon State, pretty good. Arizona, one of the better teams in college football at the end of the season. Utah was coming off back-to-back Pac-12 titles. Washington, they made the college football playoff and the championship. They had a lot of good teams in the Pac-12. And I look at this Big 12 right now, and I see programs like, I'm looking at Baylor rebuilding, Oklahoma State, they're going to be good. Kansas State will be solid. Cincinnati was one of the worst teams in college football. Kansas has had some injury issues. Texas Tech was a major letdown last season. UCF, they got rid of a couple coordinators because they were not up to par to Gus Malzahn's liking. So I think the Big 12 is much more up for grabs. I think Colorado will fit in much better. And even if you look back at Colorado of the past and Colorado of the Pac-12, Colorado never really fit. They were like the new kid that moved schools and just like never really found their friend group in the Pac-12. They didn't have a rival. They just didn't have they didn't have ties with anybody. And so I think it's kind of difficult to be like, yeah, this is our conference. This is our home when you just don't feel like you fit in. And I feel like that's kind of Colorado's case. And I do think that they will give a lot of teams a run for their money in the Big 12. I think the Big 12 had, compared to the Pac-12, they had inferior quarterback play, inferior defensive play for the most part, and inferior pass rushers, excuse me. Those were all the things that hurt Colorado. Quarterbacks like Caleb Williams were able to outduel Shedeur when he wasn't able to do enough. Bo Nix outdueled Colorado. Their defense at Oregon was phenomenal. The defense at UCLA, even though UCLA wasn't the best team's elite pass rush, they probably had 4 NFL defensive linemen. Same thing with a team like Utah. They had I think he was second or third in the nation in sacks. Jonah Ellis, he was really good. So there's just so many guys in the Pac-12 that were good at getting to the quarterback and dominating Colorado where they were weak. And I don't think that's going to be the same case in the Big 12. And then also, this is probably the most obvious one. They have key returners. They returned Deion Sanders, who's probably at worst a top 5 quarterback in college football. I think he could be in the discussion for the best returning quarterback in college football with Carson Beck and Quinn Ewers. You returned Travis Hunter, who now, because I was as close to his full season as Travis has played. He missed quite a few games at Jackson State because of injury. I think he kind of got a sense of like what is needed from him and what is expected from him. Whether they use him the same or not, I think they should use him a little differently. I did an episode about how to use him more efficiently, because I think while it is great, let me just say it again. It is great to have a dominant two-way player. It is also unfortunate when he's tired or he's kind of fatigued and isn't having as much of an impact as you would like, because you needed him to run a post route on offense twice. And then on defense, you're asking him to cover one of the fastest players on the other team. I think if they figure that out, it could be a huge advantage for them. Then they return guys like Jimmy Horn. You get guys like in the system again. You get Trevor Woods. He's going to be a linebacker. Maybe he takes a step forward. Omarion Cooper, Cormani McLean, who I said will have a breakout year. I think he's poised for a breakout year. Those guys are returning. They have familiarity with this team. They have familiarity with being the guy. A lot of the guys at Colorado are returning, whether it's Shane Cokes, who he started at Dartmouth. He was a great player at Dartmouth, but did not play Power 5 football. Amari McNeil didn't have a lot of reps at Tennessee. These guys are all coming in year 2 with more experience under their belt and an understanding of what is expected and what they need to do to win games, to compete, and to just simply keep up with other teams. And I think those 3 reasons are the biggest reasons that I think Colorado is bowl or bust. And I don't think being bowl or bust is a bad thing, but I just think all these things are in place for Colorado to take that next step. I think if they don't, like say they win 5 games next season, I really think that'd be a letdown. I really think I don't say the tide would turn in Boulder, but I think even Coach Prime would be really disappointed. I think he would be the first to let everyone know that he thought they'd make it to a bowl game this season. They brought in a great transfer portal class. The few recruits that they did bring in, I expect at least 4 of them to have some sort of role right away. So he has all the 3 keys to success. You did rebuild your flaws. You made up for your flaws. You have an easier schedule, which that's not always the key to success, but it does help out. And then you have key returners who have 1 more year of experience under their belt. They know what to do. So this Colorado team is in a much better place. This isn't the same team that had 60 new players. It's not. This is a team that has some momentum, that has some stability with certain coaches, and now they just have to put it all together. And whether they could do that or not will be dependent on just really if they take that next step or not, which is a huge question. It's easier said than done, but I do think if they don't make a bowl game, it'll be quite disappointing. This episode of Locked On Buffs is brought to you by our sponsors over at eBay Motors. Passion, drive, and patience. What brings home the winning trophy is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. From superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more, whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has got you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number 1 ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easier to turn your car into the MVP and bring home that win. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay guaranteed fit. Only available to U.S. customers. Thank you guys for making Locked On Buffs your first listen of the day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcasts. Make sure to like, subscribe, follow. We're well over 4,600 subscribers. I greatly appreciate it. We're on that journey to 5. Let's get there. We're talking about NIL, and I'm going to tie this mansion being bought for Coach Prime by his sons into how NIL could be used the right way. And also, if you're Colorado and you're like trying to pitch yourself to one Mr. Julian Lewis, for example, the 5-star quarterback, and it's like, you want to earn big and you want to play at the highest level and have a chance to compete? Yeah, welcome to Colorado. So if you guys didn't know, Coach Prime's sons, Shador, I think, was kind of at the forefront of it because he's one of the highest earning NIL people in college athletics. Shiloh pitched in, and then Deion Sanders Jr. also pitched in. They bought him a very nice house. I'm going to call it a mansion. It looked like a mansion to me in Boulder, or in Colorado. I don't know if it was in Boulder, but it's in Colorado. And you could just tell Coach Prime was excited. It was like a full circle moment. And he even said in the video, he was appreciative of them and what they did for him, just saying, what's awesome, though, talking to Shador, my 3 sons had the thought process that they wanted me to see this because y'all want to make sure I'm straight. And so I think it's one of those things where it's like, they are at that age where obviously they are some of the most famous people in college sports, but they're still thinking of the guy who got them here. They're still thinking of the guy who motivated them and helped guide them along the way. And so these 3 kids, or they're not really kids, these 3 young men, buying their father a mansion is just awesome, first of all. And secondly, to make it about Colorado, because this is Locked On Buffs, that's a huge, huge flex for anyone that's considering Colorado. Because if you can't read the writing on the wall, let me explain it to you. If you come to Colorado, you're already going to have a huge spotlight on you because Coach Prime is there, right? Yeah. Colorado went 4-8, and they were the 3rd most watched team in college football. Imagine how many people are going to be tuning in to watch them when they're winning games, when they're making it to bowl games, when they're contending in the Big 12, when they're maybe flirting with the playoff. Imagine how many people are going to watch them. It's going to be a lot. So not only do you have Coach Prime as your coach, who's one of the best football knowers of all time and football players of all time, you have a market, a platform. And then if you succeed, people are going to be vested in you. You have more eyes on you. You have more eyes than most quarterbacks in the country or most players in the country. They're going to be like, oh, wow, that Colorado quarterback, Coach Prime's quarterback, Deion Sanders' quarterback is really good. Or this wide receiver at Colorado, he's really good. You have the chance to make a name for yourself, boost your value in terms of NFL stock, and then your NIL value. And then also you have a chance to take care of the people around you. And I think that's a big thing of importance for a lot of these recruits who are coming from areas or situations where their family needs their help. Their family needs them to find success in order to kind of help them out of a sticky situation. That's not everybody, and it's not certainly the reason that these kids are trying to do well in football. But that is the case for a lot of athletes. They want to help their parents in any sort of way, whether it's getting a free education, whether it's getting NIL money and paying off something. At Colorado, all those things are possible. You could boost your stock. You could boost your NIL value. You could play for one of the best football players of all time. And you can help out your family if you want. Coach Prime obviously had no money issues, but for his sons to not only have the value and the wherewithal to kind of do this for their father, they're also setting a precedent for Colorado players. Like, if we ball out, people will tune in. People will give you a guy's NIL deals. And I think that's a great kind of message to send. And I think it's something that's being overlooked. Obviously, I don't want to take away anything from the gesture because it's a fantastic gesture. I wish I could buy my parents a mansion. I do. Maybe one day, but not today. But it's one of those things where it's like, that's such a cool gesture, but it also shows the potential of Colorado is skyrocketing. More people are going to be invested in this program. More people are going to get NIL opportunities. And I think this is only the beginning of what Coach Prime and his family are going to be able to do in Boulder. So huge gesture by the Suns. I think it's a really cool thing. And I think it helps out Colorado more than people realize. This episode of Locked on Buffs is also brought to you by our sponsors over at FanDuel. Happy Super Bowl to all who celebrate from FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. If you're like me, Super Bowl Sunday is all about scoring the best seat on the couch, grabbing your favorite football snacks, and placing some Super Bowl bets. Obviously, I go to a Super Bowl party. There's got to be pizza. There's got to be wings. We're looking out for the best commercial. Is it the Puppy Bowl commercial? Is it some commercial about Coca-Cola? Who knows? Is there a surprise one where it's like, wow, was not expecting that. Either way, FanDuel has so many ways for you to end the season with a W or 2 or 3. Not only can you bet on who will win Super Bowl 58, but FanDuel also has bets for which players will score a touchdown, how many points will be scored, and so much more. New customers join today and you'll get $200 in bonus bets if your first bet of $5 or more wins. Just visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to sign up. That's FanDuel.com/lockedon, LOCKED, Make every moment more with FanDuel, the official sportsbook of the NFL. Welcome back to Locked on Buffs. I appreciate you guys for tuning in and make me your first listen of the day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcasts. So give me 5 stars, give me the likes, give me the subscribes. I appreciate them all. We're nearing 5K on YouTube. Appreciate you guys. We're talking schedule prep. Tomorrow, Tuesday, January 30th, the Big 12 is releasing their schedule. And Colorado knows who they're going to be playing, but they don't know the order. So right now, the only 3 games that we know of are that scheduled and everything is North Dakota State to open the season, August 31st. Nebraska, week 2, September 7th at Nebraska. Then they're staying on the road for Colorado State. So they're going to head to Fort Collins. And then the rest of Big 12 play is to be determined. They have 9 conference games. So I'm thinking in my head, I'm talking to myself. I'm like, what are the 2 things that Colorado least wants to happen on this schedule? Well, for starters, obviously they have no say, but this is kind of like just the general idea is, one, not having a horrible stretch of road games. Like if they go home North Dakota, then 2 or 3 road games in a row, that could be tough. I think another thing that would really hurt Colorado too is if they somehow have to play Arizona and Utah and Oklahoma State. Because I consider those the 3 best teams. If they played those 3 teams within the same 3 weeks, that'd be really disappointing, or really, I guess it could take the wind out of Colorado's sails. And let me explain why. Obviously, you want to compete with everybody. You want to beat everybody. There's no secret there. That's why we play the game. That's why we take the field. But we saw how quickly Colorado got unhinged last season. We saw how quickly their season fell apart. So they don't get a say in when they play people. But it would really be unfortunate for the Buffs if they had a schedule that has like, okay, you're going from playing Cincinnati, who's probably going to be one of the worst teams in the conference again, to now you're playing the 3 other best teams in the conference in a row. Things could fall off the wagon for Colorado. We saw this team lose some momentum last season when they started losing. Now, granted, I talked about the Marine training, the new additions. Those guys are all bringing a new mindset. So I think they should be well-versed to handle adversity. But everybody thinks they're well-versed to handle adversity until you lose 3 or 4 straight and the season starts to go aloo. Now, the good thing about their schedule, they get Utah, Oklahoma State, Kansas State, and 3 of the best teams. They get them all at home. Colorado has a great home field advantage thanks to the coach. I don't even think it was Coach Prime helped, obviously, but that fan base, this Colorado fan base, has always been a rabid fan base. They've always been passionate. They've always been vested. Now that Coach Prime's there, multiply it by 100 because there's more people interested. There's more people dialed in. So having those 3 games at home, you get your home crowd behind you, you get the noise, you get the energy. And we all saw that Colorado State game, the energy. The first half of the Stanford game was electric. If Colorado can use the fact that they're at home to their advantage, they may sneak away with an upset win or 2, maybe 3. So those are the things that you wouldn't want to happen. You obviously don't want a tough stretch of the ranked opponents altogether to kind of take away your momentum. But you do have to appreciate that you get some of the better teams at home, which is kind of like a really interesting, I guess, notion. Then I'm going to talk about, to close this out, my 3 favorite matchups that I'm looking at the schedule. I'm like, that's going to be a good one. Obviously, the first one, you got to go at Nebraska. I think Nebraska is going to be a much improved program. They have Dylan Raiola at quarterback. They kind of hit their stride down the stretch last season. And if they have an improved quarterback play, that team should be a really solid team. I think there was a lot of animosity between those programs last year, so I think that's going to be a great game. Then this game's underrated, but at UCF in Orlando, Coach Prime has a huge footprint in Orlando. I imagine there's going to be a lot of Colorado targets that are visiting UCF at that time, who maybe just want to catch a Colorado game again under the microscope of like, yeah, I'm here to visit UCF. That's going to be a huge opportunity for Coach Prime to be like, all you Floridians, we are here. We play games here every 2 years. Come through and play at UCF. I mean, come through and play at Colorado. We will be in Orlando every couple of years, and you'll get a chance to play in front of your family. That's a chance for him to make a statement in the state of Florida, and I think that's a huge opportunity. And then my third game that's kind of under the radar, maybe like everyone should watch out for this game, it's got to be the game against Oklahoma State. Oklahoma State was the runner-up in the Big 12. They return Ollie Gordon, who doesn't match up well against Colorado because he's obviously one of the best running backs in college football. And Colorado couldn't stop the run. So that's tough. Tough matchup there. But it's just like best of the best versus a team that thinks they should be the best of the best. And I think this Colorado team has a really exciting schedule ahead of them. I'll talk about the schedule tomorrow when it comes out, or maybe Wednesday, depending on what time it comes out. But I want you guys to know that this Colorado team could have a big year. Those are the couple things that I look out for on the schedule. Let me know which game you're most excited about, and let me know which game you might be attending. Maybe we'll run into each other. I appreciate you guys for tuning in to Locked On Buffs, making me your first listen of the day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcasts. So make sure to like, subscribe, follow, give me 5 stars on all the platforms. I appreciate you guys, and I hope you guys have a great start to your week.